What's up, Brawlers? Deathblow here, back again with another patch notes reaction video. It's been a little bit, so we haven't had any changes in a while, but this patch is chock full. We've got a cosmetic slash hero bundle available, a supporter bundle, something I've been asking for a long time, somewhere between the $10 and $120 price points, which was a pretty large gap. This one comes in at $40. Gives you the new Sad Dracula or Dr. Acula hero skin, a bunch of gems, and a couple emotes. So I think this is a great addition to the game. Really happy about it. I know I've already bought mine, but before you buy yours, make sure you're aware of this first balance change that they've done. So Sad Dracula is a different hero now. Instead of giving all of your front row characters Slay to give one attack permanently, now your first character has Slay +3/+1 permanently. No longer affects your entire board. No longer means that you're entirely based around a Shadow Assassin build, okay? It's going to allow you to play much more normal builds while still giving you a unique ability that really enhances specific cards and makes them far more playable than they would normally be on their own. So I'm all for this change. As of right now, I'm a little nervous. Listen, this is my favorite hero. This one hits very close to home, but nonetheless, I'm still excited about it. I still tend to kind of agree with their reasoning here, but I just hope he stays very, very fun and very, very playable. He was very signature to me. He gave the game a very specific identity, I felt like, and I think he was a big part of why I fell in love with the game, kind of having fun. Developing builds around his ability was a really, really good time. I hope that remains true. I'm hopeful that it will, and I think it will. But it is a pretty big shift. Along with this shift, it allows them to kind of re-examine some of the Slay cards, right? They no longer have to remain balanced in a Sad Dracula build, or at least in the old kind of Sad Dracula builds, right? So the first one is Vane Pyre. Not a massive shift here, but instead of being a 3/4 starting body, it's going to be a 4/4 starting body. Again, it's no longer going to be part of like every single front line of Sad Dracula build. It's not going to have its power get so exorbitantly out of hand in those builds, and so they're allowed to make it a little more powerful and a little more impactful for kind of just the everyday average hero, right? The ones that don't interact with Slay specifically, things like that. Hopefully this will help make Slay a little bit more of a acceptable and viable composition across all heroes. I'm pretty hopeful, in addition to all these changes. All the changes are Slay based, I'm fairly certain, if I'm remembering correctly. So let's go right into the next one here. We've got Shadow Assassin, formerly a 1/1, now a 2/1 with the exact same ability. So 100% more attack power. Listen, this again isn't one that's going to massively shift things, and I think this is in line with at least what we've seen commonly from them from Balance Philosophy, right? I think they're worried this card's going to be a little underwhelming without Sad Dracula, and maybe its statistics and its numbers are going to drop. Oop, not showing you the whole card there. Sorry about that. But what it kind of gives them a starting point, and they may further adjust this going forward. But yeah, one attack seems to be a bit of a theme with these patch notes. I'm not sure how impactful it was expected to be, but it's probably most impactful on our next card, which is Brave Princess. This card has stunk through its history in Storybook Brawl. It's typically bait. Usually only buying it when I want to flip a frog prince or a lonely prince into a frog prince. That sort of a situation when I just really need to buy a princess. And listen, we've all gotten the quest to work. It's just not reliable. It's not something you should plan on or really focus on trying to do. And outside of when Prince Arthur was insane, even after you upgraded it, you tended to just get rid of it. Its really only purpose at that point is its attacks do continue to pump the Shadow Assassin, but for the most part, this was a character to avoid, and I think it doesn't take much to turn it into something that can reliably, finish its quest, and also keep it from being broken, right? I don't think this will be by any means a broken effect if it was reliable to complete the quest. So overall, I really enjoy this change. I don't know why they kind of tied this in with the balancing cards around the new Sad Dracula, like increasing the power of Slay cards. This to me is kind of a separate footnote, but it says Slay on it, and they did exactly what they did to a lot of the other changes that they have in this patch. So it'll be interesting to see how much of an impact this has. I tend to lean towards it'll be significant. Brave Princess isn't going to suddenly become a broken card. It's not going to become a must-buy. It probably won't even be as good in its tier as like Cinderella is in 2, but I do think just the power level of the 3-drop treasures is so high that it makes it much more worth the risk, and it's much more likely to pay off now, which I'm very, very happy about. So yeah, I'm going to be looking to try and buy Brave Princesses early on after hitting level 3 going forward. Next up, possibly my favorite change that they've done so far. The Chupacabra is back. It now pumps itself. It used to just have a Slay ability to pump the characters behind it by 1/1 permanently. Now it's going to do that to itself and the characters directly behind it. I think that's great. It was a card that you could kind of like put in and get a little value out of for a little while because it was statted pretty good, but all things considered, it would just end up coming out of your comp very, very quickly, so it probably wasn't worth the 4 gold investment. Now allowing it to actually scale with the rest of your Slay composition, I think is massively important, and I am very much so going to be trying to make this particular monster work for me going forward. I love the idea of pumping up the Baba Yagas behind this guy, that sort of a thing. And if it's going to also impact the quality of my front line when it hits its Slay triggers, I'm all for it. Combine it with the scaling treasure for Slay, whose name is escaping me at the moment. I'm sure in the comments you guys will remind me. I always, it's one of the moons, I think, right? And I always get them confused, so I usually just don't try at it. But right now I'm blanking on them and only coming up with the names of magic cards. So yeah, but anyways, I'm really, really excited for the Chupacabra's change here. It is going to, I think, give Slay an extra punch that it didn't have. And again, very specifically, outside of Sad Dracula comps. This change won't really impact Sad Dracula. You're not putting Chupacabra in position 1 to only get half of the value for the Slay, that sort of a thing. So yeah, overall, great change. I think it'll really help give Slay some teeth in the mid-game and allow it to keep pace with what you need to be doing when you're scaling a mid-game comp into the late game, as opposed to the comps that just get to buy all new 6-drops like Good Boy, right? You know, you don't get to replace your full composition at level 6 when you're playing Slay, and Chupacabra just might be good enough to stick around. Maybe not yet, but we're at least getting much closer to that point. Last and absolutely not least, yeah, you're seeing this right here on the screen. Adventurer was cut, and I'm not gonna lie to you, brawlers. I'm a little shook right now. I'm shocked. I really, truly didn't see this coming. You know, they talked about what they were going to be doing a little bit during the tournament as far as upcoming changes, and they mentioned a Good Boy nerf was on the way, and they almost made it sound like a rework. So I was scanning the post basically first, looking for the Good Boy changes, and then I got to this, and I saw Adventurer's picture in one word, and it's just a dagger. Listen, if you're here watching this, you've probably seen a good amount of my videos. You know how many of them feature an Adventurer, even if it's just for a couple turns, right, to give yourself a bit of a boost. It's just a little insane how impactful this can be, right? And I will agree with them, and this is why I'm optimistic, right? Like I'm shocked because I didn't see it coming. I really enjoy this card, but I tend to think they were right to cut it. And they do say here, I just want to say, we'll bring her back someday, but with less of a focus on gaining lots of bonus experience. So I'm guessing they're going to rework what is actually at the end of this Slay ability, and come back with a wholly new card concept, while keeping, you know, the blue-haired hero that I'm sure a lot of people, much like myself, enjoy quite a bit. But Yeah, so it did feel like I was saying, it felt pretty arbitrary. You know, somebody would get an adventure, shoot up, and they'd be 6 before anybody. But I think the impact of this is pretty widespread here, especially considering some heroes that I think made better use of adventure than others are probably significantly weaker now. I'm looking at you, Pup the Magic Dragon. That extra pump from the support on position 1, I think made adventurer significantly better. Grimsoul as a card is significantly worse. There's one less prince and princess in the game. Frog Prince got worse. You know, there's a lot of I think far-reaching effects to a change like removing adventurer. Thankfully, this was not part of any endgame builds, so it's not going to affect kind of what endgame compositions are most viable, but it is going to slow the game down a little bit. I think that is definitely true. I'm guessing most lobbies, at least Legend up lobbies, were severely impacted and affected by the presence of adventure in the card pool. So that is going to take a bit of a hit. There's certainly things I'm not remembering or not realizing. I record these very, very quickly after the patch notes are out. I do like giving you a bit of a raw reaction to them. Since the first one, I give them a read through in about 15-20 minutes worth of just sitting there kind of thinking about what's gonna be different and allowing myself to get over maybe initial overreactions. Probably for the best with this adventure one. If I'd done it right away, it would have been a very different section of this video. And I know I've talked to some of you guys in the Discord about some of these changes as well. Definitely a big patch, despite the small number of actual changes. And we didn't see anything having to do with Good Boy and Magic Sword. I'm a little bummed about that, but I'm happier to see nothing happen to it than to see Good Boy reworked. I've been in that camp this whole time. Let's buff things, and if we're going to attack that particular synergy, go after the Magic Sword, especially at the 3/3 with the previous nerf they made. Good Boy on its own is good, not great. As soon as you add that treasure, right, and then you just throw a couple ranged units in, it's just absolutely overpowered. So to me, the problem's always been the treasure. Let's lower the number of attack it gives, etc., etc. But enough about a nerf that didn't happen. Yeah, so the game's going to be a lot slower now. The mid game is going to be a lot more important, and there's going to be a premium value on those experience spells. So where before you might have not prioritized them, I think you're going to have to now, because the player that's able to effectively and efficiently spend their gold on those instead of rolling and buying, you know, mediocre to moderate upgrades for their board, I think are going to have a much easier time of getting those prized first places. I don't hear a lot of discussion in the community about how top 4 is a win. A win in terms of when you're talking to people about this game tends to be considered a first place. That's what a lot of people are really trying to do. And if you're not finding a way to gain a bit of a level advantage through experience spells, you're going to fall behind because other people will. So, yeah, keep an eye out. We're going to be doing some streams today. If you're watching this video on the day it was released, that's October 5th, I will be streaming this patch today. It'll be a few hours after the video goes live. It's my last day of some vacation, so I'm going to sleep in. But I'll wake up and probably stream early afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. I know I do have a lot of fans over in Europe and Asia and just all over the world. It is not a massively US-dominated demographic here on the channel and amongst the subscribers and viewers. So hopefully that's not a time I can usually stream. Hopefully a couple of you are able to stop by and say hello for the first time. And I really look forward to digging in and figuring out what about this patch is really going to shake things up and finding out if Slay is as viable as I hope it is and always want it to be. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, guys and gals. Really appreciate your support. If you don't already, please do hit the subscribe button. I think my percentage of viewers who are subscribed versus viewers who are not is better than a lot of other channels. So you guys are hearing this, you're reacting, and I really appreciate it. But we are still well over 80% in the not subscribed camp, and I am absolutely that way about some channels I watch as well, so I get it. But double check, make sure you're subscribed, hit that button if you're not, would really, really appreciate it. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next time, Brawlers. See you in my lobbies.